My name's Lawrence McCurry. I'd like to ask each of the candidates what they're going to do to stop the globalization of Canada, if they're going to stop the globalization of Canada for the Conservatives.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
You don't blame government. There is only 308 of them. But you are the ones that you are going to voting with. Last May, 40% of the eligible voters didn't go to vote at all. And you cannot ask one person or two person or even one party to change that. You are in charge. It is democracy, ruled by people. But the way it's going on right now is monocracy, ruled by money. Right now, I noticed Mr. Scott mentioned about the party and the banking on the reputation of Mr. Layton. And I received in my mailbox 2 pieces of literature. One from the party at the time of the election, we got his picture. One for him with his picture. I, as an independent, I had so far $40 donation. 40.
What's the question?
The question is, you, sir, you have to go to voting booth, and instead of the, as Brian mentioned, vote for the color of the tie or color of the suit, vote for someone who will stand up for this community.
Okay, good question. Global solution. I'm running for Prime Minister of the planet. I need something that's going to work for everybody. Well, in 2001, Argentina was broke. You all heard that. But by 2006, all their foreign debt was paid off. Didn't make the news, right? How'd they do that? Well, the union said, you're not going to lay us off because you got no money. We'll take small denomination government bonds we can use to pay our HTML, hydro, taxes, medical, and licenses. Well, everybody in the city took the bonds, in the provinces in Argentina, no layoffs, more jobs, and that's how they paid down their debt, using these bond currencies as the new kind of money. Anybody can do that. I'd take an Ontario bond I can use for hydro, taxes, medical, and licenses. And if you go to my YouTube channel, that's all I did during the Occupy demonstrations was ask people, would you work for Ontario provincial bonds? You can do all these things. And everybody kept saying, sure we would. Great chips if you can pay your hydro, taxes, medical, and licenses with them. So, next time you're out there picketing because you got not enough money, think about accepting bonds from the government instead of nothing because they got no cash. The Argentine solution, go to YouTube, look for it. You got to do some homework.
Thank you for your question. What the Maple Party would do to stop the globalization of Canada, we'd first start with all of our international trade agreements. We'd end our involvement in all of them. That's number one. That would free our hands up legally to set the price of our own commodities, to farm what we want to farm. We won't allow any more genetically modified organisms into Canada. This is one of the most basic things is your food supply. We'd also nationalize the banking system. And when you do that, you don't need any more foreign investment. When investors don't invest in your country, it's your own country now. You don't owe it to anybody else. You know what I mean? Now, think of investments as what they are. When you invest in something, you want to take out more than you put in. So when foreigners come to Canada to invest in our resources, invest in everything here, they don't mean to help us. They mean to take out more than they put in. The Maple Party opposes these things. Far too long we've been paying worse prices for gas, except for on long weekends, and we seem to pay a Canadian price. The Maple Party says we should do things for ourselves here and get the foreigners out of Canada, all the interests.
Good answer.
Thank you.
The easiest way to stop globalization is to stop the money flow going out of this country. And as I stated, from Coxville to Broadview, O'Connor to the Lakeshore, you're paying $500,000 a day on interest. We need to stop that, and we need to go back to the Bank of Canada. That's the first step. The second step is that money that we save from not paying the interest, we look back internally into our country. We're an open country. We're a multicultural country. Let's take advantage of all the knowledge we have. I've heard of PhDs driving taxis in this nation. I've seen children suffer through schools not having enough to eat. I've seen my own kids say, "Dad, what my future is going to hold." I've talked to university students who have $90,000 of debt and are happy that they got a job as an assistant manager at Starbucks. This has to stop. It stops with the money. We go back to the Bank of Canada and we stop globalization. And I'm very interested in hearing if the three large parties support globalization. Are we truly going to stand up for this great nation of ours called Canada?
Yeah! Yeah!
Well, I approach this from a slightly different tack. Globalization. Oh, it's on. Is it on now? Yeah. Sorry. Globalization, if it means that we get access to markets, can have some benefits. So the trick here is not to just cut out globalization because we have some ideological objection to it, but to make sure that insofar as we participate in a global economy, it benefits Canadians as it is to our benefit. To that end, the Green Party of Canada has a commitment to give 6 months' notice to withdraw from NAFTA immediately if we were ever elected, and to renegotiate that trade agreement because it is not to our benefit. And certainly, you know, the CETA going on, all kinds of other negotiations like that, we would get out of it. I would echo a lot of the ideas that other people have had in terms of using the Bank of Canada more for loans, reducing our dependence on foreign loans. But I want to bring up something else that people don't think about when they think about the carbon tax, which is something that the Green Party is associated with. Jeff Rubin, who lives in this riding and was an economist at one of the major banks, pointed out that one of the ways that the United States can get out of its debt is by introducing a carbon tax and stopping the flow of foreign goods coming in by imposing a restriction that would actually bring jobs to Canada.
Hi there, I'm Grant. Now, I'd like to use a microcosm to answer this question. I'd like to talk about our riding, and then leave it to you to apply it to our country. In our riding, we have an awful lot of small businesses that are having trouble surviving. I'm hearing it business after business after business that I walk into when I'm canvassing. I'm hearing it from the people who work for these businesses. We need to create a buy local campaign. We need a program. We need to get it ingrained in every single person's head in this riding that we have to buy local, we have to shop local, we have to eat local, we have to support the businesses around us. The business owners' children go to school with our children. We're a community and we have to stick together. Then, nationally, I'm sure you all get it. One of the things we've had a long history of doing is digging stuff out of the ground and doing it mostly irresponsibly and shipping it away, and then, brilliantly, we buy it back at 20 times the price as something else. Thank you.
Very briefly, I think you can see me like this, and we're already on the stage above everybody, so I prefer to sit.
The moderator allows that. Please continue.
The question isn't whether to stop globalization. The question should be what kind of interaction we want with the rest of the world. And there's all kinds of examples of negative economic globalization that the question, I think, was alluding to. What happened in London with the Caterpillar plant is just one of the examples. Everybody knows the story of tax credits going to a major multinational that then decides that it's going to ask workers to take a half their salary pay cut, only to then close the plant and take the benefits of the assistance that they receive. One of the biggest sources of power in the world has been the case for the last 30, 40 years of multinational corporations. Until we get our handle on how it is that we can fairly and effectively regulate their cross-border activity, we're always going to be in trouble. Yesterday, I was spending a little bit of time learning about the EU-Canada free trade agreement that in secrecy is being negotiated, in which the fear is that there are going to be provisions that prevent cities like Toronto from having local food procurement policies because that will inhibit free trade, when at the same time we know that local food procurement is absolutely essential for an environmentally sustainable approach to the world. So we do have to look at exact problems, what they are, and handle them as they come.
What was your first name again, sir?
Lawrence.
Lawrence, I want to thank you very much because, you know, recently an elderly gentleman was talking to me. I'm the padre for the Veterans Association up in Newmarket, and he said to me, you know, this globalization has really affected us as Canadians, and I'm glad you raised it. But he had a good sense of humor, and he said to me, you know, Dorian, he said, I long for the old days before we had globalization. He said, in those days, and he was so sad to hear, of course, of the loss of Steve Jobs, and he said, you know, in those days we had Steve Jobs, we had Johnny Cash, and we had Bob Hope. He said, today there's no jobs, there's no cash, and there's no hope. And I want to tell you that we in the Progressive Canadian Party want to bring back Canadian jobs. We want to bring back Canadian hope. We want to bring back Canadian optimism so that people are able to say, PC stands for Prosperity Canada. We're the only party that wants to end globalization by focusing upon the Francophone Commonwealth, 17 nations, the old British Commonwealth, 57, and let's deal with those two and the United States, and let's impose tariffs on any Canadian company that goes to China and gets Canadian jobs lost. Thank you very much.
The Conservative government certainly recognizes that we do live in a global economy, and it's very difficult to operate without that understanding. We've been working very, very hard to ensure that we are competitive as an economy. As I mentioned in my introductory remarks, the Conservative government has lowered taxes to ensure that our businesses are more competitive. We have created 460,000 new jobs since the global recession hit, so I think it's fairly clear that we're doing a lot better than many of the other countries globally. Other things that we're doing, we're certainly looking at ways to improve training so that our workforce is better equipped and better able to compete on a global scale. When it comes to immigrants new to the country, we're looking at ways to improve their certifications so that they're better able to be put to productive use, and we're better able to compete. That's all.
I think the answers are quite simple, actually. The first thing that we have to do is abrogate free trade. Out the window. It's got to go. We don't need free trade with China. How are we going to compete with China? I don't understand that at all. It makes zero sense. Secondly, make Canada a pay-to-play nation. If you want to do business in this country, you got to pay to do business in this country. We've watched corporate taxes go from 20% down to 12%, while we're carrying the rest of the debt on our backs. And that's just not right. So those are the two things that we have to do first off. Third, we need a national energy policy that protects Canada and our resources, water, oil, natural gas. There's nothing in place to protect us at all. We're one of the only countries that doesn't have anything working in our favor. So with those 3 or 4 things in mind, I believe that we can actually move ahead and protect Canadians.
As I look at that flag of Canada, very privileged to have a democracy where we have 10 fine gentlemen standing up and running for office. Let's thank them all, and one lady, yes, I don't know. My apologies to the lady. 9 gentlemen and 1 lady. Thank them all. How about a great round of applause for all of them tonight?
Before we go, could we all stand and sing "O Canada" together? Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. 3 cheers for Canada. Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray!
We all win.
Canada Action Party. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Canada Action Party.
Where are we at right now?
We are at the Apple Grove All Candidates debate, and we're here to support Christopher Porter, the Canadian Action Party.
I noticed you asked a question. Now, what'd you ask?
How do we stop globalism? What would you do to stop globalism? Unfortunately, the major parties, the NDPs, the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the Greens, don't want to stop globalism. They want to keep sending our jobs to China. The Canadian Action Party had a plan to stop globalism.